This week on Restore Your 60-Year-Old Boat on the Side of the Interstate. We're building a wiring harness. Look at this. It's all commercial grade 12 gauge wire, 10 gauge, 14 gauge.
Probably 14.
Where's the this is not Skookum as frig. 12 gauge. It had, this was the wiring harness for the troller motor, which is a extension cord from Harbor Freight that was spliced together with electrical tape and twisting the wires together.
More extension cord.
Into another extension cord piece that looks like it came off a skill saw, and it's broke. A little backstory to this thing. So we got this boat, drove like an hour and a half for me, and showed up to the house, and the guy had the motor sitting on the back here with a 1x4 basically to hold it from going straight through the transom. Has a 1958 or 57 model Evinrude 18 horse tiller steer. Runs like a top, but he had it in a plastic drum that was cut in half, filled up with water, and then the gas tank for it was sitting over here, and the top was it had cracked at some point in time, so it had this bead of silicone. It must have been 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide, going all the way across the top. And then he had a fuel line running all up under here. Up in this area, he had this live well that was a Rubbermaid container with a plywood top made onto it, with about 50,000 self-tapping screws going into the side of it. This boat was, the amount of self-tapping screws in this boat are absolutely insane. Just from what the guy had. There was a seat right here that was of course bolted to there, but you see it has self-tapping screws going all the way around there. It had a switch right here. That was the only switch on the boat that controlled the bow light and the docking light, or the stern light, and all of this was wired up with like commercial grade like 12 gauge or 14 gauge wire throughout this whole thing. I mean, it was, and there was not like a butt connector or anything. They were just, the two wires were twisted together and then wrapped in electrical tape. And then yeah, so there was just a mess of wires up here, and then it came over here, and then the battery was, I think the battery was here, I'm pretty sure, but from here to the corner right over there, there was a troller motor mounted right there, and so the battery was here. So he had about 3 feet of what looked to be like a cheap, like a Harbor Freight extension cord, and then it was cut, and then it had the twisty ties with the wire connectors on it. And then he had like a power cord off like a skill saw or something that went to about right here, and then he had those twist tied connected to the troller motor. And then over the battery where the whole thing was connected, there wasn't a like a fitting or anything like that, no, you know, ring connector. It was just stripped extra long and then wrapped around the terminal, and I can't remember if it had a nut on it or not, but it was just a disaster. I mean, awful. But when we got the thing, it had I think 11 pounds of air in one tire and 12 pounds in the other. So we go up to the local Love's gas station and put some air in the tires from the pump that we brought. We were just trying to get out of this dude's house, and we put when we got done, we had 25 pounds of air in each tire. So of course Love's is located right next to the interstate. We get onto the interstate, and not a mile down the road, the driver's side tire blows. The valve core, the whole thing came out, all of it, and left us on the side of the road. So we kind of expected that to happen, but at the same time we did not prepare for it to happen. So we didn't have new tires or, you know, wheels or anything like that. So we checked around at all the local, you know, Walmart, Tractor Supply, Northern, all that stuff, and nobody had a spare. So I called my dad and I said, we need a trailer to put this trailer and boat on, or a couple spares. And so he came down and saved the day. But while we were waiting for, I think, close to 2 hours, we had, you know, we're just sitting on the side of the road. We had pulled like, I don't know, 40 feet off the road because there was enough room for it right there. But we're just sitting here on the side of the road just thinking of what to do. And so we just start gutting all the wiring. I mean, we took everything off. We like removed the light from the front of here. We tore out all the wiring on the sides. We took out, you know, all of it. Conveniently, it had this kind of live well in there, and we just threw everything in the live well and just started, I mean, gutting everything. Like there was, you know, wires going through the oar locks, of course, and then there was just a whole mess of wiring, and there's the switch right there, and we just took all of it out and threw it away on the side of the road. And then we started figuring up what we needed to put new lights on it, because the lights that were on it, like, they were mounted up here, and there was like a ground wire that was kind of like twist connected over here, and it went to there, and it didn't have any connectors on it. It was just all held together with electrical tape and twisted unions. Like, I mean, it didn't even have like wire nuts on it. It was just like a wire nut connection without the wire nut. But this thing, even with the motor on it, it is light enough to change the tire without using a jack, which, you know, it's nice, but at the same time, not good for your back. But the next thing that we're going to do on it is replace these boards on the trailer. That should be pretty easy. And then maybe paint the trailer. Definitely paint the boat. The plan is to pull the boat off, paint the boat, and then work on the trailer while the boat's drying. So that's the plan, at least. Hopefully it won't take too long.